Good morning. Today is June 4th, 2024, Tuesday. We continue with Tanya. We're in the second volume of Tanya. This is recording number 90. I think it's 94. The second volume keeps going deeper into trying to understand the connection between infinity and finality, between God and the world. How the transition from infinity to singularity, to specific limits, to the limits of the world. And that's not only a religious question, not only a Jewish question, but it's been a philosophical question for as long as the humanity existed. So Tanya talked about several worlds, that filters, that they are dimming the light of God as it goes down. And also narrow, like an aperture is closing, in order to become, I made an example in one of the recordings that it's almost like if you're developing the film, those of you who might be photographic hobbyists in your child days, in your younger days, when you develop photographs, when you put it into development, then eventually something is coming out from there. So on the level of Atzilut, the highest level, right where the light of Hashem comes in, there is no yet time and space. It's everything is together. There's no separation between attributes of God, Sphirot of God. Then it goes to the world of Beriah, things become a little bit more clear. Then Yetzirah, and then when it goes to Asiya, that is what time and space now kick in. The universe, essentially, the physical matter evolves. So the creation, when we talk about creation, this is a philosophical concept that the humans struggle for centuries, thousands of years. How does the creation, when did it happen? Who did it? God did it. What was before creation? So if you take concept of time and space out of the equations, then the creation is just evolution of something by the pre-thought, not in a time domain, but just you're walking through the rooms of a museum, and the tour guide gets you from one room to another. And when you come back, the picture evolves in your mind, not because of the time, but because of the different levels of the exposure of the artifacts that you see in the museum. Not a perfect example, but something trying to explain that infinity to finite. I made a little picture. If you look at this, I'll show it to the camera. Here it is. See if it's in the camera. Okay. I hope you can see recording. So the first world, Atzilut, that's a world of pre-thought. You know, that example I made before, when you're looking at your child in a crib, and you just feel the connection. You don't think it anything yet. Then, and you can see I made it like in a shade, area of slightly shade. Everything is there's no chokhmah, bina, dat. Everything is kind of one. Then in the thought level, you beginning to area becomes darker and narrows, and then it's like a funnel. It looks like a tornado, so to speak. And then the level of the Yetzirah becomes even darker, and then in action, the level of Asiya, it's quite dark, very small hole, and it comes into our universe. So the creation's ongoing. You go from infinity to our world, it's ongoing creation. That's basically transition. Then God talks about the creation, how God can be absolutely one, and yet contain different divine energy. Is ultimately something you just have to accept on faith. That's one thing we just, after attempting to explain for 2 volumes now, finally Tanya admits that, well, it's something you have to accept on faith. That whether it's infinite here and finite here, whether it become the click, was it okay, gradient in infinity become less and less and less infinity, but it's still infinity. So in that sense, Tanya says that the highest world of Atzilut is, Tanya makes analogy, our thought, speech, and action, and then pre-thought. For us, speech, we speak, the words leave our mouths, the airwaves leave our mouths. When God speaks, it doesn't. He is, Rambam says, creator, creation, and the process what created it. So when we speak, our actions ultimately result in our pre-thoughts. Ultimately, pre-thought is the highest level of conscience or subconscious, if you will, that humans have. For God is, so in other words, Chokhmah on the highest work, Atzilut, for us is a starting point of everything. But for God, even Chokhmah is still, in comparison, for us, it's like huge. But for God, well, a million for God, the same as one or billion. Comparison to infinity, everything is negligible. So even the pre-thought for God, that is his speech. So Ein Sof, divine light, infinite light, speaks with that level of Atzilut. So the starting point for God is his essence, the infinity. Everything together, everything is one, no changes. And then becomes the world of Atzilut, which is the highest world for us. For us, that is a starting point. So pre-thought becomes action for us. For God, infinite light, his essence, becomes action for him. Chokhmah is the action for him. Pre-thought of us is a starting point. For God, that's his expression point. Analogy. That's when God made man in his image. The very similar process. We talked about body. The soul resides in the brain. Brain then connects to the rest of the body. It works in a very similar fashion as God works. Good analogy. So, but that transition ultimately only can be done by faith. Well, many of you say, well, if that's the case, why do you study all this stuff? Just say, okay, I believe in God. I don't know how it works. It's probably a very good idea to most people. But for the humanity wanting to understand that connection, when you read this, when you watch through our series, through our seminars, you gradually begin to kind of get a sense, the feel, what it is God. You almost say, I wish I can communicate to God and to other people, to the nature, on that level. So that's what, like some people, philosophers or emotionally charged people, go to the beach, to the remote beach or to the deep forest and just sit there and they feel very good unity with God. We said that, by the way, in practical level. It's a wonderful feeling, and people do that. Now, of course, don't limit yourself to that. Come back to civilization, and your job is to bring the light of God to this world. Not just sit there and enjoy it. Don't be selfish, so to speak. So, and this is painfully obvious with children whose da'at, chokhmah bin da'at, is immature. So they get a temper in the time and are vindictive. They also love trivial things which are not worthy of love because they don't have sufficiently developed da'at to love things that are worthy of love. The love is a function of da'at. So when you think about it, this is how the world is. We are the children. So that also, by the way, gives you hope. When we see all the troubles that are going all over the world, and you think to yourself, we're like kids. Well, God actually means that. God says, unfortunately, you have to get to this truth realization through a process of the childhood. You fight, you hate, you do all these emotions that you shouldn't be doing, but that's a human nature. And we're waiting any moment until you grow up and mature. But keep that inner zeal of the childhood in you. Keep your openness to the universe. Keep your eyes open. Be amazed what's going on. Be amazed what God's feeling without necessarily having this analytical connection and deep thought. That is the feeling that's good to have. But as you grow up, add to that your feeling of analytical connection, of understanding. As you become an adult, you begin to understand also logically what happens. So the child misses that intellectual ability to really appreciate God in the thought. The child lacks experiences, but adult many times will lack the also capability of the child with open mind. You know, you look at the children sometimes playing such a wonderful picture. You can see, oh, look at this kid. He is like 2 years old. He's walking with his dad, holding his by the hand, or mom rolling him in the car. And you look at the children with their open, wide eyes, and they're looking at the world with that innocence, with that beauty. And that's a feeling that it's in us. God gave us this feeling. And that feeling also can backfire to become fighty. As a child, as a 2-year-old becomes 6-year-old, He fights with his buddy on the playground. This is my toys. Give me my toys. Oh, you're not going to play with me. I'm going to take my the toys and go away. This is how we're going to play. This is the rules. So that's how we're humans. This is how you're supposed to understand God. Judaism is the only right religion. No, it's Islam the only right religion. No, it's Christianity. No, it's Hindu. No, it's Zoroaster. Well, I guess today the older religions seem to by now become more serene, more peaceful, more accepting. More newer religions still have the passion in them to say, what I say is right and everybody else, you guys, wrong. That's the process of maturity. And this is, you get it from Tanya when you're thinking how the appreciation of, so that is how creation happened, and it's still happening and will happen. Take the time and space out of it, and you can see how that evolution happens before the time gets created. And when you look on this level, and when you sit down, close your eyes, and think about and pray to God, then you will see that this is a model of perfection. And you ask yourself a question, if that's a model of perfection, how the world is so imperfect? Well, it's not perfect because we're not following this model. God gave us a freedom of choice. If you take freedom of choice and want to try to understand it, learn it, think about it, share with each other, you can get to a situation that you can benefit tangibly in this world. Our health will improve, our relation with the family will improve, shalom bayit. You're not going to be arguing with your wife, or with your husband, or with your children, or with your parents. Everything becomes in a full harmony in this world. But we have to make the step to understand, to calm down, and to understand how great the world is, how trivial our watching TV for 3 hours with a popcorn and a potato chips, wasting the 3 hours. I'm not against TV per se, but if you analyze your life and you think how much time we're wasting, that becomes, when we're going to stop playing games and start thinking what's important, relationship among people, helping each other, live a full life, play basketball, go to the beach, do things like that. But don't limit all your life just to that. Don't make that priority. Priorities are much greater. And that is objective that God continues. And Tanya reminds us that our mission to do. God created the world with one purpose. He created for us not to elevate ourselves just to Him, sit in the mountain and only pray, but to bring that light down, to illuminate light, bring the light to the darkest of the world, the lowest world, which is the world of Asiya, our world. And when we bring this light to this world and illuminate it, at least to do our portion in illuminating it, we accomplished the will of God. That is the objective. And then each one of us has to find which small step contribution to the person we can do. So all our souls connected together will experience the state which God calls Garden of Eden, the paradise. That is a life. That is a world to come. That is a world to come, literally. Not just when we die and go to paradise, but we can bring paradise today on this planet, on this world, to make it harmonious and wonderful and happy place. I hope you enjoyed that. Sit down, review the tape, listen to it maybe one more time. I think it will make you feel good. I think it will help you. It will help all of us. Have a great day, and I'll see you tomorrow morning. Thank you. Amen.